Good evening. Oh, sorry, got it wrong. Hi, guys. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Most important, I think, is probably share. Blah, 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 blah. YouTube done. Hi, this is something new. I do a short series on UFOs because it's been a interest of mine for quite some years. Very many years. And there's been a bit of a development. The details that are all over the internet, but the site I can remember is Fran Blanche, who talks about the new definition of UFOs. So that's what we're going to be talking about for however many videos it takes. And we'll have a think about that later. So this is a short introduction. What is, why is, how is, etc. I'm going to start with the definition. UFO is any aerial phenomenon that cannot be readily identified at the time that it's spotted, that it's sighted. It remains UFO until there is a positive identification made. That is very simple. That comes from Wikipedia. That's how it's always been. Long before Wikipedia, that was the definition. And it's a very sensible definition. If it's flapping about in the sky and you don't know what it is and you can't identify it, then as far as you're concerned, it's a UFO. It doesn't have to come from some far distant planet. We'll talk about those in a minute. The updated definition, in brief, it's quite long, but it's tiresome. It comes from America, as the American government have admitted that there are such things as UFOs, and they've given us a new definition or new criteria for reporting. It must be cited by a trained military observer. That could include a pilot, of course, and it must defy the laws of physics. Okay, so, you know, your F-15 pilot's wandering along and sees a bumblebee. There we are. That's observed by a trained military observer, and it defies the law of physics. You need to go and look that one up. It's a very old joke because, yeah, okay. Some homework. Strikes me as being a bit of a daft definition because it means, you know, it's a whole street, a couple of hundred of us go outside and we see some huge 130-metre long cylinder with lights down it and funny writing on it and aliens popping up and down out of it, you know, little green men or grey men or whatever colour men they happen to want to be, and we report it. It means nothing. You know, worse still, if we're at the airport plane spotting, you know, A320 arrives at our local airport because it can't take A380s, you know, parks up at the door and you see more people getting off, and in the middle of it all is a little grey with his triangular head and his suitcase, and we can't report that. You know, it's not worth anything because we're not trained military observers. Yeah, all goodness knows how many of us. So that's the daft thing. How easy is it to fake a UFO? Well, fairly easy. We will cover that in a future video, but just think drone in fancy dress. Or if you can't afford to buy a drone and put it in fancy dress and risk losing it, frisbee with luminous paint. Probably work. We'll find out one day when I can find my luminous paint and a frisbee. The real problem, because we're talking, you know, predominantly people think UFOs mean extraterrestrial from another planet. How big is space? What's the chances of that happening? Well, here's a picture of Orion. Wrong Orion. That's better. Yes, the US military are responsible for the lots of sightings of Orions because one of their hunter submarine hunting aircraft, whatever it was back in the 80s, was an Orion. Orion, this guy, is sat up there in the sky. We'll have another look at him in a minute, or from a different view, or different cartoon. That is a well-known, certainly in the northern hemisphere. Don't know if you can see him in the south. Might be able to, just south of the equator. Don't know. We'll try to find out. The top left-hand star, the really orange one, is Betelgeuse. Don't complain about the pronunciation. There is no formal pronunciation of Beetlejuice, and that's made me thirsty getting cross about that. Lidl's freshly squeezed deluxe lemonade. It's still because I put other fizzy lemonade in. It's gone flat. Costs a fortune. Not the best, but quite refreshing. Saha. Beetlejuice is a red giant. Beetlejuice is about the 5th largest known star. About the 5th largest? I think he is the 5th largest known star. If we plonked Beetlejuice where our sun is, the surface would be somewhere out around Jupiter. So Beetlejuice, just the star on his own, is about half the size of our solar system. If there's any planets floating around him, they're going to be a long way away. The other thing about Beetlejuice is he's due to explode sometime within 1,000 years, they say. When he does, it's going to be spectacular. He might have already exploded. We won't know for about 650, 670 years. He is that distance away. He's about 670 light years away. In interstellar terms, that's kind of like next door. Are not detached either. It's no distance at all. He's really quite close. The bottom diagonal of him, the blue star, as I've got to think backwards, so it's slightly difficult. The bottom right, as we're looking at it, is Rigel. And you will know all about Rigel. Rigel is a big white star, a big blue blobby thing. He's also a very big star. I don't know how big he is or how far away he is. He's certainly a lot further away than Beetlejuice, but not quite as big. I don't think he's as big. Rigel is quite famous if you're a Simpsons fan, because circling Rigel, or orbiting Rigel, or whatever, going round Rigel like we go around the sun, is planet Rigel 4, which is where Kang and Kodos come from. And Rigelian, by some quirky accident of nature, happens to be identical to American English. They're helpful if Kang and Kodos want to pay us a visit. That gives you some idea. That's our close neighbours. They're huge. Just a little bit more about Orion. This is Orion. Why he's called Orion, because he looks like a hunter, and you'll see, you've got his shoulders, you've got his head, you've got that diagonal bit, which is his belt, and that's his sword. Okay, that's his sword. Not what I was told by students, not actually by lecturers or anyone, but that's his sword. And then you've got his feet, even though they're where his knees should be. Anyway, that's Orion, and he's quite exciting. He's host to the Orion Nebula, which is birthplace for new stars. When Beetlejuice goes bang, most of him will be absorbed into the Orion Nebula and churned out again as new stars, which is quite nice. It's recycling on a cosmic scale. The real enormity of space is that we can't see most of it. The thing called the event horizon, as far as we can see, because if we try and look any further, the light hasn't had time to get here yet, is about 14 billion light years. Don't think about it too much, it'll make you ill. The next problem is the flat Earth problem. We're a flat Earth, as I said in the Moose News. Flat Earth. This is the problem. Cartoon time. As you can see, we have this dome thing over us, and E.T. and his mates fly along in their saucer, hit the dome, slide down the side, and don't know what happens after that. Still waiting for answers from the flat Earth people. What happens over the edge? Might be a long wait. And last, what are we going to do next? So this is kind of a very brief introduction. What are we going to do next? We're going to look at some of the more famous UFO incidents or incidents involving aliens, or where aliens are expected to be or believed to be, not expected. It's a bit much, really. And we'll sort of talk about how to spoof them. We'll probably get arrested. We'll try and think of ways of spoofing these things without getting arrested. That would be really good. And we're going to just take it from there, really, and see what comes up. If people wish to look up things in their in their local area and tell us about it, that would be fantastic. I will pass it on. Well, we're also going to look at it with a slightly critical eye. We're not going to go in from, oh yeah, there's definitely life out there, there's definitely aliens visiting us, all. We will ignore the rumour that our government, at least in the UK, is comprised almost entirely of reptilians. You may wish to believe that, or you may not. The choice is yours, and no one will judge you on it. But we will also look at UFOs that are slightly more earthly based, because that gets quite exciting at times, and see where we go from there. So between now and next time, and I'm about to pester someone to provide some material for next time, drive carefully, dear, and we'll see you soon.